There is something really, really unique about how Kicking Horse Coffee evolved in Vermeer. It's all part of it. We were quite isolated from the coffee for many years. We didn't really know what was going on in the cities and in the industry. In my brother's industries, all the brewers, they look at each other. What's everybody doing? Because they're all kind of in those settings where we're kind of out here by ourselves doing our thing. And our North Star was always, okay, we had that and we weren't influenced by others around us. And, we always knew we're doing the right thing because it just made sense, right? And being part of the valley here, I think has been a huge part of because it's the people that have come together.
Welcome to episode number 72 of the Rose Bros podcast. This episode, we are joined by Tom Hoyne, VP of Coffee and Quality Assurance at Kicking Horse Coffee. Prior to Kicking Horse, Tom co-founded Kootenay Pasta, a high-end pasta company which he subsequently sold after growing tired of the demanding schedule running the business. Tom then joined Kicking Horse Coffee in the early 2000s and was a key member in helping Kicking Horse lead the craft coffee revolution and becoming a multi-million-dollar global business. In 2017, Kicking Horse Coffee was purchased by Italian conglomerate Lavazza, and the deal valued the company at approximately $215 million. This time, we sat down for a smooth cup of Kicking Horse coffee instead of Rose Bros and discussed the importance of quality products, the origins of Kicking Horse, how to make a great cup of coffee, ignoring noise when building a business, why coffee prices are rising, and a lot more. Also, this week's podcast was brought to you by A1 Web Development. Looking for a new website or e-commerce storefront? A1 can help you launch your business online through Amazon, Shopify, Walmart, or eBay to access millions of new customers. Check out a1dev.ca today for more details on how you can grow your business. Tom Hoyne, appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for having me.
To start from the beginning, how did you get into pasta?
I moved to the Valley in 1986 and was working in different bars in the Valley. I started at Panorama and then went to the Lakeside, the old Lakeside in 1987 when I worked in the old Lakeside, which was just a fantastic, fun place to work. Met many of my close friends there, and I started Kootenay Pasta with an ex-partner. So we had decided to say we wanted to start something unique and different. I was living in Montreal before that, and fresh pasta was quite popular back in the mid-'80s, and thought, why don't we look into this? So we bought one machine and went to a garage sale, bought a refrigerator, rented the kitchen in what was Bud's Disco back in the day, because I know the owner of Bud's Disco, and now it's Ular in there, and started the business. The old IGA Sobeys was across the street, so we sold to Sobeys for retail, and then to Strands and all the different restaurants in the Valley. So it was just something different and unique. I've cooked, I've cooked since very early in my age. From there, we rented on Main Street. So we were on Main Street from, I think, about 1990, Main Street, where the current credit union is today. And we started then a retail store. My partner and I split up, so I bought the business. And then I brought on another friend, a partner, and we ran that business for, that would have been 11 of the 13 years. So we were on Main Street in Vermeer. Fantastic happening back in the day.
What was about pasta that attracted you? Was it a spot in the market, or were you passionate about pasta?
For growing up, you got asked what did you want for your birthday. It was always lasagna. That was my meal growing up.
Okay.
So that kind of brought me in. And from that point, we had to figure out how to, of course, do it all, make it all. We used a local Frank Kirkby egg farmer. So we bought all our eggs from a friend and his hens grew significantly when we started to grow. Started to design all the recipes and the sauces. One funny thing was when we started, I was looking at different ingredients on companies in the store of what they make pasta sauce out of, and I tried what they would do, and they put corn syrup in it and the sugars and all that. So I made up a whole big friggin' batch of that stuff, and it just sucked. It tasted like shit. So we dumped it down the toilet. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to what I was taught. So my mother taught me how to make pasta sauce. So I just stuck to that recipe the whole time with regards to how we started making sauces. And then it just expanded. We had not just pasta, we had Mediterranean foods, we had Asian foods, so we got into the whole retail. Brothers out on Vancouver Island, and we would bring in sockeye salmon, vacuum pack them, fillet them, vacuum pack them, bring in smoked salmon. We brought foods from all over, but this was still, 93, 94, 95, and there wasn't really, there was the people that loved it, but people were like, what is some of this food on the shelves? When we got into all the Asians, the curry paste, the Thai chili paste that we used to have for retail. So we just took all those and created ingredients. Partner Paul King and I just got really into recipe formulations for designing sauces. All of our pestos, our dressings, our oils, our vinegars, all of the different unique craft foods that we could possibly find to put into those recipes. And then the credit union where it is now bought that building, so we moved to the AG Foods building. So it was Kootenay Pasta and Willie's Hamburgers that started in there back in the day. I don't know if you remember, Trevor.
To be honest, no.
And so we ran there for a few years, and then we moved into the industrial park. It was always tough working weekends, holidays, never getting time off. So we were both quite burnt from the whole retail schedule. So it gave us more of a life to basically work Mondays to Fridays, and then for deliveries, because we would deliver into Alberta. We were shipping product wherever people would take it, West Kootenay area, all different areas that, all the natural food stores that were starting to really grow in that late 90s into the early 2000s. You just saw this explosion of natural food stores everywhere. So that really hit the market well with that.
For anyone that does listen to this, you were the founder of Kootenay Pasta. You eventually sold the business, and now your title at Kicking Horse Coffee is VP of Coffee?
Vice President of Coffee and Quality Assurance.
To get back to Kootenay Pasta, did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
I think I did, even though you might not realize it. It was more moving to the valley here with thinking, am I going to continue to work in the restaurant bar business? Can you do something different? And it was exciting. It was awesome taking that leap as an entrepreneur, that it's all you, and then we started hiring staff, helping people out with working, just seeing the joy in people's faces of eating fantastic food. Like our pasta was, amazing. And we had one of the best compliments was the Italian women's ski team was up at Panorama for a World Cup, and we were making cannelloni for them. They said it was the best pasta they had in North America. So that was quite the compliment for little town in Invermere as far as that goes. So it sure opened your eyes to what it takes to run a business. A lot of people don't see, all the efforts in behind what it takes for small businesses to operate, and they are the backbone of small towns, small communities, and it's even harder nowadays. It's, you constantly hear support local businesses, and it is so true. It's in towns like that we live in, you have your off seasons, and I remember back in 1990, 1991 on Main Street, there wouldn't be a vehicle, vehicle on Main Street in November, those times of years. So there were days you didn't have one person coming through the door, you know?
Yeah.
So, so I loved that, loved learning about business. And I think that really helped guide me to my current career with Kicking Horse Coffee.
Did you do business in school? Was that the plan? Or?
No, I did a degree in sociology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think that set me up for what I do now, in particular with sourcing and buying of coffee that myself and my team does, which is aligned with our fair trade practices that really hit home to finally go, okay, that degree was more than just, used in being a bartender.
Yeah. For your party.
That's right. Totally. Yeah.
Was there kind of a craft movement in pasta when you were in the business? Was that happening too?
There was. You could see it.
Like coffee, craft beer.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a number of smaller pasta companies and starting, and you can always tell there is something to it when the larger companies start to make fresh pasta. And that's when we saw some larger companies that would start to compete in the grocery store market with our product to go, wow, okay, there is something to this.
Really?
And, we would source all of our Durham semolina out of Lethbridge. It's local, and it gave me a good idea and taste into contract buying. So because Durham semolina is also contracts, so we would buy X amount per year on contracts, pricing, etc., which is not far off from what coffee's done.
Yeah.
So having that experience to look at contract buying, planning futures for those volumes of what you need definitely helped to move into that. But it was really about sourcing, with the pasta as local as possible, with everything that we did, and it truly showed in the product.
Is craft pasta the same as craft coffee or craft beer? Is there that much of a difference in terms of taste?
I think with anything, the word craft is a really interesting term. Okay. I would say quality.
Fresh.
If people are making a quality product,
okay.
Then absolutely. Craft is to me an interesting term that can be,
abused.
Yeah, just because it is craft doesn't necessarily mean it's quality, and that's what I very much focus on is and how do you determine quality, right? So what would that indicate? So it would be, if it is fresh pasta, it is the freshness of the hard red spring wheat you're using. Are you using real? We were cracking eggs. We weren't buying liquid whole eggs. We were cracking hundreds of dozens of eggs by hand in our product. Always fresh with that, and using all the freshest ingredients possible with all of our sauces. So that to me would say it is, but I've had others that aren't as quality oriented as other companies with regards to that.
So it does make a difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah, consumers can tell it makes a difference by the taste of it.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can definitely tell with chocolate, coffee, beer, and so I guess it just applies to all products, a good quality product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I recently bought some dried pasta out of Tuscany, and it was just like you have in coffee, single origin specific, or chocolate, etc. It was very specific to this region, and they called it bronze cast pasta, which is the types of machines we used to use that were extruded. So it's, full circle, like 20 whatever years later, people are still doing this, and it was a lovely product. It was.
Was your goal to grow it to be like Barilla, the next Barilla, or what was it?
I think the goal was to grow it to make a living in the valley, because that was really the focus, right? Was saying I love this place so much that all you really want to focus on right now is make a living, so you don't have to move away. That was really the goal, and beyond that, didn't really have too many other aspirations than try and say, hey, if we can make a good living in Invermere in the valley and enjoy things, then that would be great. What we both noticed was, with owning your own business, you work all the time. So all those amazing things, when you move out here to do the hiking, the skiing, suddenly you don't do as much because you're working. And I remember woke up one day and just went to my partner and said, let's sell. I want my lifestyle back. So that was a really big focus on just saying, let's sell the business. I want to get back to hiking and camping and doing all the things that you moved out to the valley to do. And so we did. Found a great partner to buy the business, and it happened really fast. Yeah. And then took a bit of a break, and I ended up working for a good friend who's passed now at Pepe's Pizza. Oh, right. And I was working with Tim Goldie. We had so much fun working there. So I was there for a couple of years, and it was the owners of Kicking Horse Coffee who came in for dinner. I'd been thinking they needed some help, someone that knew food manufacturing. I got a phone call and asked if I wanted to join Kicking Horse Coffee as a roaster. They're going to train me how to roast coffee, and that was awesome. Jumped on board to that in a heartbeat. It was such an opportunity, and I think I was employee number 12. I think for Kicking cool. Horse Coffee, and that would be 18 years ago, maybe 2004, in that range. Yeah,
with Leo and Ilana.
Yes. Leo Johnson, Ilana Rosenfeld were owners of Kicking Horse Coffee. So Leo managed the roasting, manufacturing end of the business, and Ilana was all about the brand, the marketing, the front end, the people in the business. They were up already on where their current facility is, which is on Shuswap First Nations land. They were the first building to go up there. They were the first ones to take a chance with that business development, and now look up there with all the different buildings, etc. And
Brett Wilson,
is across the road on the other side, I guess, building something. And we now been there to see that was put on 4 phases since then. And so I started out roasting coffee. I knew manufacturing, could fix equipment. I still remember my first day on the job, Leo said, there's a bearing on the back of this roaster that needs to change. Can you do it? Sure. So head off and fix the equipment. Nothing better than getting to know the equipment. And they gave me everything I needed to learn the business and succeed in coffee. So courses, travel, any education, knowledge, they passed on everything. Very different from any business I've ever worked in, started in before, just to go, you run with it.
Was it hard transitioning from your own business, being an entrepreneur, to work for somebody else?
Absolutely.
Hard on the ego.
It was, coming from, manufacturing, and I'd worked in other factory environments. I was totally unskilled and unprepared to how to work with people. And, when you owned your own business, you did things your way, etc. And it was all of a sudden, man, I have to figure out how to work with people and work in that style, which is very, very unique, which is, very much values based, how to talk to people and be mindful of all the actions that you do has implications. So that was, and that was probably the greatest gift they've given me, is to be able to work with others. I was driven to ensure the quality of what we do as we grow improves. So my goal has always been to, you've seen it in many companies, and my goal was to, as we grow, to improve quality of our product. And I'm super proud with everyone at Kicking Horse Coffee that we've succeeded very much at that with everything we do, and to embrace adding food safety management systems to a manufacturing facility like ours to continually focus on people and the product. That's been, an amazing journey to be with a company, and to buying, what we do for sourcing of our coffee, which I started working at Kicking Horse. So I'd say after about 4 years is when I started getting involved in that. Leo managed, all of that buying at the beginning, and as that his job changed there, and as that transitioned and focusing on quality, consistency, I was able to take that on, and it just totally fit with my mindset of seeing the bigger picture about helping farmers where we buy coffee from. And that's been the guiding light to grow with Kicking Horse Coffee, and what we're able to achieve down at origin is phenomenal from what we're able to do.
When you left Kootenay Pasta, sold it, how were you guys nationwide, or was it getting there?
No, we were East Kootenay, West Kootenay, Calgary, Edmonton, pretty much as far as we could drive. Okay. So we would do trips all over, and then started shipping, and then a gentleman approached me, and this is of course long before the internet, etc., and phoned me up and said, "Hey, I really like your product, and I'm starting up a food distribution company, and I'd love to take your product on." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool. All right, let's meet." So we met in Calgary, and he started, it's called Planet Foods in Calgary. So it was Clay Gillies.
I know Clay.
Perfect. Yeah. So Clay and I met in a parking lot, and it was too cool. And
that is a small world.
Yeah. And he had a car and shopping cart, and started bringing the pasta into the different stores. So we would basically drive in, meet, and then transition off. And he brought on a partner, John Stiles, and they built that distribution company into a really fantastic, natural, organic Western Canada food distribution. So I was super stoked to find someone, and he was so passionate and driven. Yeah. Clay was driven. I'm like, okay, you're gonna be able to take this. So that took up a lot of time. We used to drive in every single week from Invermere. Used to leave about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and go into Calgary, do all the drop-offs, all the pickups, and come back. So that was awesome to have someone take that on.
That's a small world.
And it was, so I introduced, Kicking Horse was looking for a distributor, and I had Kootenay Pasta at the time. So Leo and Alana came to me and just talked about, okay, how do you get your product out of the valley? And I said, there's this young guy, Clay. He started this company called Planet Foods. Why don't you reach out to him? So I connected them, and they just took it to another level.
From when you sold Kootenay Pasta and you went over to Kicking Horse Coffee, how big was Kicking Horse Coffee at that point?
Quite small, still compared to now.
Yeah.
Let's say, absolutely, yeah, they were quite small. Just really getting traction. So the brand, the distribution in grocery stores was happening, and that's where they were able to. They were growing fast, and they were empowering the people that came in to go, I trust you, and you do what you need to make this happen. So because they were growing so fast with regards to that. Yeah.
And that was kind of before the third wave coffee revolution, or the craft coffee revolution. You guys were maybe leading that?
Yeah. It would have been the not the third wave, but more the craft coffee. Okay. Definitely in Western Canada was Kicking Horse Coffee led that movement.
Exactly.
It really was born out of the Starbucks movement, with that whole West Coast style of roasting at the time, which was the craft roasting, which was part of the whole specialty coffee. So specialty coffee is, if you think about it, really, really new, but people think it's been going on forever. That's not the coffee that I drank growing up
Right.
at all. And it's really in the past, 20 years really taken hold. So they had started Kicking Horse Coffee at the beginning, seeing that opportunity with craft coffee. People wanted to buy better coffee to support. Then from the craft coffee, the third wave was born from that. Absolutely, that they found a niche in that, as far as the entrepreneurs that wanted to start their own small roastery with coffee shop, etc.
Was there something about coffee that attracted you? Or was it just, like you said, kind of a cool way to stay in the valley and make a living? And
I always loved. So at Kootenay Pasta, we had a lunch counter, and we used to serve, with lunches. We had a beautiful presentation, a little single serve mocha pot with steamed milk and a cappuccino cup on the side. So I always loved coffee. So when I got but I didn't know what coffee was.
good coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I got the opportunity to join Kicking Horse Coffee, my mind was blown as far as the coffee world,
right.
How big it is, how far it expands. Had no concept of really, the opportunities that can be had in the coffee world to help and support, millions and millions of people around the world. Farmers, people, not just farmers, people, exporters, importers, supply chain, logistics, the whole framework of coffee. And it's definitely one of those subjects, the more you learn, the less you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that just, I was tired of pasta. I was tired of eating it. I was very much tired of it. So this totally then brought me into a whole nother world of, holy shit, I can't believe the coffee world and how amazing it is, the chemistry behind it, the history, the opportunities with recipe formulation. So I, back with Kootenay Pasta, we designed all of our recipes, all of our own spices, mixed them, all the different 20 whatever different flavored pastas and all that. So I had that, that foundation to really go, okay, I can take this skill and standardize it in coffee to help support our growth with recipes, and then seeing the impact down at origin with that has been amazing.
You guys were one of the first specialty coffee companies in Western Canada?
Yes. I joined.
Maybe the first?
Yeah, I joined. They were 7 years operating already, because Kicking Horse Coffee is 25 years now. So they I would say they would be the first in that market, absolutely. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
It's really gotten competitive since then, obviously.
All food has.
Okay.
It's not just coffee. The beer market.
Craft beer.
Yeah, as I said, I have one brother, Paul, who started Lighthouse Brewing Company in Victoria in 1996. And then my other brother, Sean, started Hoyne Brewing Company in Victoria very recently. 7 years ago, I think it has been now. So they are absolutely seeing in any of the food industries, how competitive the marketplace is.
Mm-hmm. But Kicking Horse was one of the first, so it was really good for you guys.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. And you have to work at it. It took a very unique mindset from, Ilana, our CEO, is like no other person I've met with regards to business. Extremely unique. So it's one of those, those opportunities that you see that you can take advantage of in the grocery store market for Kicking Horse Coffee. Like, she had the vision with regards to the coffee, her and Leo back in the day, that vision that I did. That's not me. I'm more the working guy in the back. Hey, I'll do what you got. They had that vision.
Was it a challenge to find farmers that supplied a good product in terms of coffee and to start paying them fairly when the fair trade stuff started to happen?
Yeah, Ilana had told me that when they first started doing that, so the company started with conventional, organic and fair trade, so a line of everything. And it was fairly early on that they decided they're going to go 100% fair trade organic. The importers that we work with were very nervous, saying that I'm not sure there's going to be enough product for you of that quality.
Strict.
And they said, doesn't matter, we're going to make it happen. And sure enough, it's that, if I guess the old saying there, if you build it, they will come. If there's a demand for it, the supply will come. And I think that was at the beginning of all of that people were hesitant to jump into that. There's never been any issue, because that, when you see the coffee market where it's been since I've been in coffee, historically extremely low with regards to the opportunities for cooperatives, so farmers that join the cooperatives to want to increase their income, it definitely works. Yeah.
Did you have to literally go down there and look at the farm yourself and meet the farmers?
Yeah, we go, well, other than COVID, unfortunately, has changed a lot. We typically go 2 to 3 times every year to different countries, mainly between Central America, South America, and Indonesia. And we visit all of the cooperatives that we work with. So we have very direct contact with all of the general managers of the cooperatives that we're sourcing all of our coffee from. And then, of course, working and supporting them on all of the projects that are being part of the whole fair trade and initiative and the organic. So on the coffee market, it's open and transparent as far as we pay X amount more per pound for fair trade and X amount more pound for organic, and those funds go back to the cooperatives to invest in, whether it's, agronomists with improving in soil conditions, understanding what it takes from inputs to grow organic production in coffee. It's not what people had thought of, you just let things go. There's a lot of local knowledge combined with science to get the best inputs into your soil for outputs. And then with all of the fair trade projects, but these are things that take decades to come to fruition. I think our mindset in North Canada, US, is we want to see results really, really quick, because that's how we're driven. Our mindset is if I put money into something, I should see a result really fast. That is not true with the rest, a large portion of the world. It takes years to develop and foster these relationships and this support, to start from, basic necessities of putting roads in because they've been using mules to bring their coffee down to, they'll punch in a road, use the fair trade money to punch in a road, the basic necessities. And once they start on those ones and they get their, they can work on their infrastructure, then comes quality. So we've worked with many of our cooperatives that the fair trade money has gone to put in cupping labs because they weren't actually cupping, someone else was. So they didn't see the value of their product if someone else is doing it for you. All the social improvements that we saw. One cooperative, when I visited, they were using the milling facility on Fridays to teach their members' children's music. So they would have violins and guitars, and so this young boy was about 10 years old, and he always had this stand-up bass, and it was twice the height of him, and he's playing a stand-up bass. To now they've got they continued to work on that they've got a full school. That they bought an old building and renovated it into a school, and have high school graduates that know 3 languages coming out of there. Most are getting scholarships, and then they'll come back to those regions with their degrees to help the communities. So those projects are not 1-2 year projects. These are decades to support, and that's what Ilana sees, that vision that is willing to take the time to support and understands these takes. So I get the support from a business to continue doing that, which is just fantastic.
The flip side of that is you guys are running a business. All that takes time and investment. Did you view it as an investment, or did you view it as good for business, or was it more of a philosophical approach to the coffee business when you guys started to go down that fair trade organic path where you demanded standards?
Where I fit in with that is it was part of the values of Kicking Horse Coffee. So to be able to treat everybody in our supply chain fairly. With that, I could run with those concepts and ideas. So that was really, it's
more philosophical.
It's innocent, but it is good business.
Right, exactly.
It is. They're not separated at all, from my perspective. Yeah. It's a part of doing good business, because then people want to work with you. People want to create those true long-term partnerships. We've had, and it gave myself and my team the ability to evaluate as we go through the harvest cycles, through La Roya, where we had many challenges with coffee production, yields, quality issues, because of that, that airborne impact on a plant, where it just, we traveled to countries and see one farm devastated from it, where they literally had to burn it all down. It's an airborne fungus. And in order to control it, where the other side of the valley, nothing. With that, we could say, okay, well, if the quality's not there, then we're going to go find somebody else. But that was never us. We're going to stick with you. We're going to stick with you, and we're going to get through this. And sure enough, because then you see that long-term partnership evolve and develop that is truly meaningful. And that's good business. And as far as how Kicking Horse Coffee thinks, it's just in our mindset to be like that. It will come back. It's if you do good things for people, it will come back. It's karma. It will come back to you in business. And that truly has worked for Kicking Horse Coffee.
Do you guys worry, because coffee's super competitive, that those relationships and the investment you're making in those areas, is it a worry that other companies are going to come in and kind of reap the benefits of your investment?
I see that, if it does happen, as a good thing.
Okay.
It's what's needed in coffee growing countries, for more people to provide more support at large scale. And that's one thing as Kicking Horse Coffee's growing, is we're able to do that at a scale that's very different from other companies. So if others see what we're doing and want to emulate that, become that, fantastic, because it's good for the people that are struggling, to put food on the table every day. We're very fortunate where we live here to be able to, live our lifestyle, but it's being mindful of where all of our food, not just coffee, it's where all of our food is coming from.
You're an expert in coffee now. Do you find it hard to find a good cup of coffee? Can you go to McDonald's anymore?
I can. You know what? I can and will drink whatever coffee, because I appreciate it all. And you truly get to see that when you travel to origin. Quite often, if anyone has traveled down to Indonesia, South Central America, quite often they cannot afford to drink the coffee we're buying. Our coffee, the high-end coffees, are all export coffee.
Really?
So typically the coffee you drink down at origin, they can't afford that. So they're buying the lower grade coffee, and that's what they're serving. Many times we've had, it's extracts of coffee that you just add hot water. So I can drink because I appreciate it all. at the end of the day, a farmer has grown it.
Yeah.
And it's not about saying, oh, I can only drink this coffee because it's grown at this elevation, this quality.
For sure.
There's been farmers' families' hands on every bean that's been roasted. And I can respect that. What I'm always looking more for is buying or drinking sustainably sourced coffee. I'm very focused on that in my life with the foods we buy. My wife and I, we very much look at trying to buy sustainably, ethically sourced foods. That's what's going to change a lot, hopefully in time. A lot of the agricultural problems we have is buying that, but a lot of people can't afford that. So it's a dilemma in our society.
Is it hard to get coffee that's sustainably produced? Is it inherently tough on the environment?
Well, there's a carbon footprint to coffee, as in anything that we absolutely consume here. It's not hard to get coffee that's sustainably produced. It's more a choice of if consumers are willing to change their buying habits, to look and source for that and what is sustainably sourced coffee. Most coffee grown has been grown for a long time, and we're hoping there's a shift towards looking at the relationship between the environment and the agricultural products we produce.
Yeah. And what makes good coffee to you? Is it extraction? Is it beans? Is it cream? To me, it's a lot of cream.
You like a lot of cream in your coffee?
I do take a lot
nice.
of cream.
and that's too bad because I don't even have milk in the house.
This is great.
So I gave you a black.
We are drinking Kicking Horse for anyone that does listen to this.
I gave you a black coffee. I think there's all of the different steps in the process of coffee. So it goes right back to agricultural practices, and our coffee is all picked by hand on very, very steep mountain slopes with full forest canopy above it. It is tough labor to pick the coffee by hand, but then it's from there. It has to be processed properly. So many of the projects we'll work on are how that's being processed. So through the system. So if it's a washed, fermented coffee, and then it's going through the milling facilities, and then it's the transportation facilities, and then it comes to our facility, and then it's how we roast it, how we package it, to ultimately get to the consumer of saying, okay, are you getting what the consumer is you're providing what the consumer wants. And then from there, of course, if it's a whole bean, then it would be, okay, what kind of grinder do you have? Absolutely. And then yes, the water, because it's, the coffee you're drinking right now it's about it's strong, so 98.2% water. So the water you're using is a huge impact on it. And then how you prepare it. So, I'm not going to judge on anyone's method. The best coffee is if they like it. So if they like it, whatever. If you want to add cream or sugar, if you like a French press versus a pour over, AeroPress, brewed espresso, to me, that's the beauty of coffee, because it's not to me or any coffee expert to say, you have to drink this coffee this way. Yeah. Like, man, whatever you want to brew it up in. Yeah. I grew up with the percolator growing up, and that thing would be boiling for half an hour on the stove, right, to create mud.
Folgers coffee.
Oh, yeah. MJB back in the day. Totally.
That maybe that's noticeable in terms of quality. Maybe not if you like it, but do you recommend a certain way for people to make their coffee, like AeroPress, burr grinder?
I'd say it's not the brewing method, but if you're buying, definitely a good grinder. If there's one thing to invest in a good grinder. It will make all the difference to your extraction. The spice mills, which for some reason had got brought into the coffee world because they're inexpensive. They're the blade grinders. They're really for spices, and they do a great job for spices.
Kind of like a weed whacker approach, yeah.
Totally. And but that does not really do the best job for grinding of coffee. So a good solid burr grinder makes all the difference, and one that will get to your extraction. So if you like a French press, it's got to be slightly coarser. If you want an espresso, you might have to have a grinder specifically suited for espresso to get the finer grind size, which is much lower in micron size, you know, into 250 microns versus about 500, 600 for the burr grinders. So some grinders can do it all, some can't. So I definitely recommend investing.
It's kind of a tangent, but I read the story of Starbucks coffee, Howard Schultz and the Pete's guys. Do you remember when they were getting going? I didn't know that they had started Starbucks.
Yes.
Before Howard Schultz took over.
Yeah, it was some staff members that worked for Alfred Pete that started Starbucks. I don't even know the year, but my aunt lives in Berkeley, and she lives right close to the original Pete's coffee shop. So she's been a Pete's fan for so many years. And that is really the birth of specialty coffee. Absolutely.
They've been doing it for a while.
Long time.
Yeah.
They do a great job. They all, you know, if I go to quality, right? So to me, quality's, I've heard that saying, quality is doing the right thing even when no one is watching or looking, right? And that's a, you know, we might score coffee like wine on a grade scale, but you could have lesser scoring, but it's still quality because it's been produced, you know, roasted, it's been packaged, they've done all the right things. Not all coffee can be at the top. That's the top of a pyramid of a mountain. And right now, most coffee is grown, you know, at certain elevations, but there's a much wider band of lower scored coffee that all needs a home. So all coffee needs to find a home. So that's where I don't look at quality as saying, okay, if it scores an 89 or a 92 or an 84 and, you know, an 80, if it's quality produced, it should taste have a certain sensory component to an 82 cup score, an 80 cup score. I don't look at it as a negative if it's been well produced. And then you have Robusta coffee that most of the world, you know, is using in Africa and in Indonesia, that North Americans would just go, oh my goodness, that's not what I consider quality. But if it's been produced, grown ethically, produced properly, transported, roasted, etc., it is what it is. So then you look at that. I was in Indonesia once and at a cooperative, and the general managers, you know, they grow this phenomenal Arabica coffee that has, you know, grapefruit and cedar notes, just a fantastic coffee. We sit down for coffee and they pour us a Robusta coffee that was very earthy, asphalty, tar. And they're adding a lot of sugar to it. We're kind of looking around going, it's interesting. That's what they grew up on. So that's what they like.
Yeah, more caffeine too.
A lot more caffeine. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny how it hasn't caught on in North America for whatever reason. I guess it's just taste.
It is absolutely taste. It's a very unique taste. It has, of course, in Italy, it's the foundation for their espressos to add a certain amount of Robusta to it because it's roasted fairly light, but it adds that punch of a taste and caffeine. Yep. So using it in like a 10% range adds crema, has a lot of body and crema to it. So it has a very unique in Italy where they have very much embraced that product. And the same, not all coffee can be grown in where people need to grow it. So Robusta growing much lower elevations has opportunities for farmers to make livings if they can't grow Arabica on the plantations that they have. And most farmers that we're working with, are 1 to 3 hectares size max. And fair trade has a limit of how big your farm. So it's about small farmers collectively getting together to compete on the world stage of coffee. So that's in essence. So to have farmers that are living at certain elevations, if you've only got this small piece of land and you can grow, for instance, Robusta coffee, but you can't grow Arabica, then fantastic, right? Because you can feed and clothe and educate your family.
Yeah. How hard is it to keep the coffee consistent? Because there's so many variables. Is that the hardest part now that you guys are established, is just keeping it consistent?
As you grow, it becomes an interesting challenge, yet you create systems that then can solve for that.
Right.
And it's interesting because we as consumers go to the grocery store and expect consistency, right, in our products. And, because most products we're buying are grown and, fairly mass produced, agricultural industries. And you take this coffee and, our coffee, I can only speak for ours because that's what I really know. And our coffee's grown in very, very small farm holders that collectively put all this stuff together. And it is always changing. And that's kind of the beauty about it. And you've got different seasonal aspects going on. You've got, on harvest, off harvest seasons, yields are changing, etc. We have many systems in place that would absolutely ensure that consistency would only have slight changes. We have amazing consumers. They'll reach out to us and go, "Hey, that blend has changed," and you're like, "Okay, well, that went from that origin to that origin." It's amazing. It just goes, wow, we've got some really fantastic consumers with amazing palates. I guess for the public to know that if we know where coffee comes from and how it is being grown and how it's getting, we should expect these slight changes because of the nature, the terroir, the different origins that we're putting together in to make those blends as consistent as possible. But we have definitely created this perception from the consumer that every time I walk in, I should get the exact tasting, whether it is your breads, your fruits and vegetables. I guess is interesting to say. Well, I think those are sometimes more visually looking better than tasting better because we expect them to look absolutely perfect.
It's so hard.
Yeah, but in your garden, if you're going to grow food, you're in your garden, your tomatoes are not all going to taste the same. Your peppers are going to taste different. So it's interesting from a consumer how we think that it should always be this. And we always hope if it changes, it's changing for the better, right? That's what they see is, okay, there's something different, unique about this, as opposed to a quality issue where something's happened in the process where it's impacting that.
How important do you think marketing is in the coffee business, catching that lightning in a bottle with your image and your marketing? Because Kicking Horse obviously hit it really well.
Marketing in the brand, I would say we have done an amazing job at that. And that I will give to, Ilana and our marketing team. That is, my mind is just not, I don't go there. I always focus on myself and my team. We focus on what's inside the bag, and then the others are on that outside, and how they work, how they absolutely work together. If you have a brand, I think, and there's many brands out there that, the outside needs to match the inside, and the inside needs to match the outside, right? So there is this relationship ask my wife, I'm probably the worst at marketing and all that stuff. That's not where I come from. I come from the manufacturing, end of things, the sensory, that world is where I am. And I'm in awe at what Kicking Horse Coffee has done and continue for the brand, the brand and that. Yeah. But that's definitely not up in my world.
Kind of like a recipe, you need the good branding, but you also need the good substance to back it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Otherwise people will call you out.
For sure.
It. Yeah. And for us, that's a tough bar to match, because our branding and the image, the perception, the company is there, and we need to hold ourselves up to that consumer expectation of as a values-based company with everybody in our supply chain, and that's what's amazing, seeing that bigger picture about peeling back the layers, and we're there, right? And it's that's been a gift and a journey that I can't express enough, to how important that has been to me to develop as a person, be given that opportunity to work, having the degree in university of going, I'm very much in tune with society, if you volunteer with the community, you do all these things, to then work with a company that is very much focused on seeing that bigger picture, to then how it's put out there, branded to the consumers that believe in that, of what they're buying. And that's been an amazing journey.
Do you think being located in Invermere, rural setting, away from pressures and all that, has allowed Kicking Horse to kind of stay true to its brand and its values?
We've been asked that a lot. I would say absolutely. There is small town, small community, people know who you are. 100%. There is something really, really unique about how Kicking Horse Coffee evolved in Invermere. It's all part of it. We were quite isolated from the coffee for many years. We didn't really know what was going on in the cities, and how in the industry, I know, because all in my brother's industries, all the brewers, they look at each other, what's everybody doing, because they're all kind of in those settings, right? We're kind of out here by ourselves doing our thing, and
that's awesome.
Our North Star was always, okay, we had that, and we weren't influenced by others around us, and we always knew we're doing the right thing, because it just made sense, right? And being part of the valley here, I think, has been a huge part of because it's the people that have come together in that business, the people that are with us, the people that have come through Kicking Horse Coffee. It's very much, that small town community company.
Kind of like Warren Buffett in Omaha.
Interesting, isn't it?
That's why apparently why he lives there, is for that reason, just to stay away from the pressures of, in his case, the investment industry.
Yeah. Green Mountain Coffee, which is now Keurig, Dr. Pepper Keurig, started in Waterbury, Vermont. I have a brother that lives right close to there, and a small, same thing, very small company. So on the East Coast, you had that company that was developing. On the West, you had then Starbucks and then Kicking Horse. But they were all, that same thing in a very small town. The Ben & Jerry's in Vermont is another. Sure. I remember going to their ice cream shop in Burlington before they were Ben & Jerry's, like the big, huge company. And I'm still a Dead fan, right? Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
I was very, I got to go down and check these guys out.
I listened to their story at NPR, How I Built This, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I love those success stories with that. And then being part of a business of what you can do to give back. Yeah. Right. And that, Ben & Jerry's was very much, on the fair trade scene with their ice cream. So another advocate for trying to improve the lives of farmers.
Kicking Horse is really successful now and done really well, but do you find that when you grow, you encounter a new set of problems? Now that Kicking Horse is so big and doing well, there's a new new hurdles?
Yeah, I mean, I think with any growing company at any time, there's always new sets of hurdles. Mm-hmm. And the one thing about, since I've been with Kicking Horse Coffee, we've always been growing. And
that's cool.
It is awesome. It's a lot of change. We want to embrace change at Kicking Horse Coffee. So it's not like their problems are insurmountable.
Yeah.
They're just new sets of challenges more than problems, to be providing the consumer what they want and ensuring that that's who you're focused on, is making sure that as you grow as a business, that everything we can do is providing the consumer what they want. So they're when you start looking at it, they're good problems to have.
For sure.
We've got more staff, we're hiring more, you're buying more coffee, you're supporting more projects, supporting more. These are all good problems to have.
Was it hard because it's a physical product with humans involved, capital, tangible assets? Was it hard to keep growing like that? Investment and people and all that?
From my perspective, no. It was like, wow, what an opportunity.
Really?
Yeah. It was just like, we can bring on more skilled people into the organization. We can provide more opportunity for training of people, because that's the mindset as in a growing company that you come in with. It is not about being stagnant and plateauing. It's improve the work that everybody does and get better at your systems. We've put in a food safety management system that took a ton of work from everybody in the organization, that is globally recognized, to ensure the consumers are getting a safe product. So with that opens up so many opportunities for staff to learn more and more and more. So and that's, I think, going back to the entrepreneurial, is you want to learn stuff. You're excited about learning. Mm-hmm. And I think because Kicking Horse Coffee has continued to grow, that's what I've embraced with the company. If it had become stagnant, let's say, I'm not sure, where you'd be with that, right? And that has just been as we say, problems are golden, right? And these are great problems to have.
Some companies, when they grow, it's a problem because it's more money, loans, and all that. I guess in the case of Kicking Horse, it's been an opportunity, a good problem to have.
A great problem. And I learned my world of the business was more about, wow, if we can continue to grow, we get to buy more coffee.
Yeah.
Right. From areas that we, believe in the people, get to meet them, get to see the benefits of what we're doing. And so not only here locally with the spin-offs of all the other trades, contractors, businesses, transportation, etc., how far you can extend that, and all from Invermere.
Selling coffee. Yeah.
Little town in the Columbia Valley, right? Like,
if
I reflect on it like I am right now, I just an amazing opportunity we've all been given. And Ilana's created the team to make that happen, right? That like-minded people that are very much aligned with making everything happen.
Coffee prices, they're going up right now, big time.
Yeah.
Why is that?
There's a few things that are causing that in the market right now.
It's like a decade high.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw prices like this was around 2010, 2011. So Brazil grows most of the world's coffee, 60-odd% of the world's coffee. Brazil had a frost. And with frosts comes lower productions. Brazil also has a off years. They have a main production year and then an off year, like some fruit trees have very similar, and they're in an off year. So the markets for next year is expecting a significant deficit in the world stocks of coffee. Coffee's a commodity. It's sold, traded on the New York ICE exchange. And the speculators are driving the prices up. So they have risen, 60, 70% more in the last X amount. It's created a lot of challenges for a lot of coffee organizations. Combine that with this global supply chain problem that we've got in the world has even created more fears in that prices will fluctuate. But what's happening right now for most people that haven't been in the coffee world for the last, let's say if they've only been in 8-9 years, they haven't actually lived through one of these challenges before. So with that, there's big concerns on supply, and then you put in climate change to what's going on. It creates more fear. So when there's more fear in these speculative commodities, you're going to have the markets be more volatile. So if, for instance, in 2 weeks, Brazil says the volumes are normal, that the frost didn't have any impact, and we're going to have lots of coffee prices will drop. It's very difficult for farmers, producers to manage when the coffee prices are super volatile. For many years, the price of coffee was significantly below what it takes for farmers to produce coffee. So for Kicking Horse Coffee, we've been very fortunate because we have been paying well above that for many, many, many years. And it's offset the cooperatives we work with. So if with Fair Trade Organic Coffee, if there is supply but there's not demand, then that supply will be sold into maybe organic coffee or maybe conventional coffee. They will sell it, but they won't get the premiums for that.
For sure.
So right now with the coffee prices is definitely a major change in the market, which consumers will see 5-6 months from now, as far as in the marketplaces, and we'll have to see where that goes. But all coffee people are sitting on the edge to see where the prices of coffee are going to go. Yeah. But the bigger challenges for the future are, there's a couple things with climate change, of course. Yeah. Coffee needs to grow at elevation. As things get warmer or drier down below, the mountains are only so tall in many of these countries. I think the bigger challenge we've been seeing for many years is if coffee prices are so low, there's no incentive for families to continue growing coffee. So as we've become connected in the world, children in developing nations all over the world are connected, and they don't necessarily want to be living that life. So there's not a lot of younger people entering growing of coffee. That is almost more of a concern than climate change right now, is who is going to produce the coffee for the world. And by supporting coffee that is more sustainable, we can get more money to farmers that can then send their children to school to come back to provide value-added jobs in the coffee growing areas of the world. So right now, the average farmer is not young in the world. There's going to be more of a labor shortage. My own personal opinion is there's going to be more of a labor shortage in the future than will hit before climate change. And it's how we can help support farmers to want their children want to become farmers of growing coffee, where many aren't. We've seen that in Canada, where in our agriculture producing provinces where the kids have moved to the cities, same things are happening, and that is a real risk to the future of coffee.
That's a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Well, that's the idea. Cheers to Kicking Horse, and I'm done the coffee. So.
Thank you. You drank it black.
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
No cream.
Right on. Good for you.
That's the mark of good coffee.
That's right. That's right. Awesome, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, check out rosebros.ca, where we will have upcoming shows. You can also find our coffee and chocolate there, where we plant one tree for every bag or bar sold through our partnership with One Tree Planted, a cool not-for-profit organization focused on global reforestation. Until next time, happy coffee drinking.